Possible trigger warning, y'all, because I'm about to ask you a question that is probably going to bring up a lot of shit for you. What's up, my good vibe DJ crew? You know how we do here on my YouTube. You know, last week when I was talking about financial responsibility, it really got me thinking about relationships and what it looks like in our life, the relationships that we have when we have money. I thought, you know what's a really good question to get you to think about the relationships you have right now? Is what relationships would end right here and now, today, if you had billions of dollars, if you didn't have to depend on somebody for rides, if you could buy your own car, take the bus, buy your own gear, not have to rent off somebody, get a better venue to throw parties at because you can actually afford it, what would your life look like? How different would it be? And what relationships, professionally and intimately, might end? Think about that. Sit with that. What relationships would end? Following that question, I want you to also think about what your life would look like. How would it feel? Would you be less stressed out? Would you feel a sense of relief, of control, of empowerment? What would it look like if you didn't have to depend on toxic people to help you sustain your life because you had enough money and independence? Sit with not only what that would look like, but what that would feel like, that empowering feeling. The third and final question I'm going to ask you, now that you've thought about what it would look like if you had all the money, what it would look like if you could, what it would feel like to have that kind of power, I want you to really think about some creative ways that you can spend less time and maybe even phase out those toxic people completely to make space for healthy relationships, ones that can really thrive and be positive and inspire you. And you can drive your passion, you can have that driven passion, and they can have theirs, and you can all just breathe and be yourselves. Think about creative ways of making space for the healthy relationships and phasing out the toxic ones. Because the reality is, you don't need a lot of money to make those changes in your life. Money right here today would solve a lot of problems. Oh, yes, it would. But if you, without being completely and totally financially stable enough to do that, if you can find creative ways to change the relationships around you, that is priceless. It really is. And, you know, as a parent, I think about things like if I need childcare and I can't afford to go with an expensive service or put my child in daycare, well, I'm a DJ, which means I'm available during the days to watch somebody else's child, which means they might be available to do a switcheroo and watch my child in the evening so that I can go do DJ gigs. And if I'm putting myself out there, if I'm meeting other parents, if I'm meeting other DJs and producers and then realizing, hey, there's other people I can rent gear off of. Hey, there's other people I can trade work for work. Hey, there are other ways that I can get a club enticed in working with me without having to spend so much money to throw a party. If I get creative about that, I can really start implementing those changes in my life. And I think the important part of this exercise, and I really, really think you all should try this, is to sit with those feelings of what that would feel and look like for you if you had these things. And let that motivate you to want to go for that. Let that motivate you. Just like your DJ career. You know, if you imagine yourself playing Ibiza and you're on the beach or at an amazing club and you're playing to all these people and you're just thinking about the hype of it and the excitement and you're playing your own tracks and you start to believe like, I could do that. I could absolutely do that. I'm going to get in the studio and I'm going to learn my DAW and I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to do all of these things. You can do the same thing for the relationships in your life. And I really think it is one of the most important things that you do in your career, because if you have that kind of support system, if you have those kinds of people in your life, it makes such a huge impact on your efficiency, on your work ethic, and the relationships that you build as time goes on. Because you start to look at relationships like, hey, I don't want to work with that person because they're a jerk and I'm not willing to let myself be stressed out about this thing. I'll work with that person. I'll work, at this club, or I'll work with this label because I believe in them and it feels good. It's so freaking important to pick and choose healthy relationships that make sense to you, both in our careers and our family and friend lives. So if you found this one helpful, I put a lot of thought into it, and I just thought, I think about Marie Forleo and when she's asking people questions and how she gets them to close their eyes and really think about how these things feel. And yeah, I just thought this could work. Okay, bye guys.